Hello, my name is Dr. Randy Short. I'm a social justice minister. I am with the International Human Rights Association for American Minorities. I'm affiliated also with the Black Autonomy Network Community Organization, which is headed by the imprisoned and unjustly prosecuted Reverend Edward Pinkney. And of course, I also work as part of the male support team for the Million Woman Movement and Universal Movement. And I just want to talk to you for a few minutes about my observances of the Congressional Committee on Government Oversight and Regulation regarding the Flint crisis where the water has been poisoned. That happened this week on February 3rd, 2016. It started at 9 a.m. in room 2154 in the Rayburn House Office building. And I just want to say to you that the room was packed thanks to the Reverend Al Sharpton and his National Action Network. They brought several busloads of people from Flint there. There were also congressional staffers. And there were a few activists, whistleblowers there. I actually had to stand for about 2.5 hours before I could get a seat. I want to break some things down because anyone can go to the internet and look and see what, at least some of what was reported. The things that stood out for me that were most interesting is that the city of Flint is at least 60% black, yet there was only a white witness, Ms. Walker. All of the experts, either from the EPA or the Department of Environmental Quality, which is like the equivalent of the EPA for the state of Michigan, everybody was white. Now, the most outspoken congresspersons, in particular, Elijah Cummings from Baltimore, there was also Sheila Jackson Lee, there was also the delegate to Congress, Eleanor Holmes Norton from Washington, D.C., as well as a delegate from the Virgin Islands. And there's also Congresswoman Coleman from New Jersey. They were very outspoken, but aside from that, I noticed some things. One, I didn't see anyone from the black press there. So none of the Afro papers, TV One wasn't there, Radio One wasn't there, the National Newspaper Publishers Association group wasn't there, the National Association of Black Journalists was not there. I can't think of any more serious crisis that's confronted black people that's borders on genocide since Katrina, which happened 11 years ago, than what's happening in Flint right now. And there was an absolute lack of a black press. I saw some clergy from Flint, but none in Washington, D.C. We have a church on every corner. There's a sense that what's happening in Flint is we are the world, a kumbaya, an equal, everyone is equally being harmed by the lead in the water, which they knew was polluted, not in February 2015. Any idiot knew that GM had polluted the Flint River decades ago. I knew the Flint River was poisonous when I was 20 years old. I'm 51 now. In particular, there's been a collusion by both the government and by the EPA and all the other parties concerned to deny what's really happening in Flint. They have a city councilman by the name of Wantwas Davis, a former ex-convict who committed a murder because his mother had been raped by someone, or at least he believed that. He's been protesting about the unsafeness of the water supply with the switch that came since 2013. But because his argument has been that genocide was being done to the black community there, none of the major news networks have decided to look at his particular story or his documents. Instead, there's been a decision to come 2 years after someone in an official capacity began complaining about the unsafeness of the water. So you need to know that. They knew this long before it ever happened. There's been a downplaying of the fact that Governor Rick Snyder's wife works for the Nestle Corporation, or at least owns 18% of the stock in that company. There's a collusion between the NAACP, between the Obama White House and the Bush White House before with the Nestle Corporation and so forth. So this is very interesting that no one's looking at the fact that these people were targeted long before this. The EPA has been notorious for its participation in the abuse of poor and black, brown communities across the country. So I don't know how serious a hearing could be if Governor Snyder, let's be honest, Governor Snyder is a criminal. He should be facing the death penalty because at least 10 people have died. If we were in a different country and there was a death penalty, he would probably have already been convicted. There's sufficient information and evidence to show corruption and high crimes. How can you have a hearing without him and the Uncle Tom sellout crook, Darnell Earley, both men snubbed the Congress. In fact, the EPA has refused to fulfill the Freedom of Information Act request by the Congress, the very group of people who have oversight for them. They've refused to do that. So how serious this hearing was, I'm wondering if it was a press opportunity for some people, or was it something that was going to provide a solution? As of yesterday, Governor Snyder, his deal was to offer people a 30% discount on the poison water. Let us be clear. The people who live in Flint, in particular some of the blacks who worked for GM and had the worst jobs at GM, the most, how can I say, the jobs that many people call shit work, the most difficult and the most unsafe jobs. And they managed with those low-paying, unsafe jobs to buy homes. Now with the lead contamination, they've lost everything that they've invested their lives in. And yet there's not a real effort. I mean, sending them bottles of water doesn't address the fact that they have been destroyed. The people of Flint, whatever color, deserve reparations. One more thing that the EPA wasn't pressed about. The EPA has known for decades that fluoride that's used in water combines with lead. It's already a toxic metal, but when it combines with lead, it's even more dangerous. African Americans absorb this at twice the rate of whites, and Latinos at 1.5 times the rate, meaning that of the 9,000 children in Flint that have been contaminated and damaged by lead poisoning and other types of toxins, black children have gotten double the rate of white children. So I want people to think about that and understand it is a genocide. And it's not just Flint. It's Indian reservations. It's the city of Baltimore. It's the Bronx, where they had an outbreak of Legionnaire's disease in the summer of 2015. We have a major problem. And in reality, it's falling most heavily on black people, but also brown people and poor people. It's genocide. And the government is complicit. The wealthy people are complicit. Both political parties are complicit. And people need to, in the words of Mr. Boves, the official from the EPA, his advice after being asked is that people should test their water because no one can assume that they're drinking safe water. Thank you.